Hey guys, it's Proulx. Excuse me if my eyes are really squinty because it's really bright out. And it's time for a review of the new Said the Whale record, Cascadia. Said the Whale is a Vancouver-based indie pop, indie rock, pop rock, and folk influenced group. They've been doing it since the mid to late 2000s. This is their sixth full-length album. The last album came out in 2017. It was their first record with this new lineup that they've employed, which is comprised of two singer-songwriters, Tyler Bancroft and Ben Worcester, and keyboardist Jason Brown. Excuse me if I got any of those names wrong. For their first four full-length albums, they were a five-piece group that was doing a very cute, charming version of some indie rock, some pop rock, usually a big folk influence on some of the tracks, especially the ones that Ben Worcester would be leading with his vocals. Also, a huge Beach Boys influence coming in on the background vocals and the vocal arrangements on those records. And it just seemed like from the debut all the way up to Hawaii, which came out in 2013, their fourth full-length album, they were slowly getting closer and closer to a more pop-centric sound. It wasn't completely taking the folk and the pop rock out of the equation, but it was definitely becoming more and more of a pop-centric sound. And that kind of came to a T when the group made this lineup change. They suddenly went for a more electronic, beat-driven sound on their next record. And the results were actually better than I expected, but still the songwriting really didn't mesh with the production all that well at points. There was moments where the songwriting was just not that amazing to me on that record, and it just wasn't quality-wise as consistent as some of their better records, in my opinion. Records like Hawaii or Islands Disappear or Little Mountain. I wouldn't say any of those records are amazing, though my favorite would probably be Islands Disappear for the concise songwriting on that record, the really interesting tone of that record, how it has this really fun vibe to it, but there is still a darkness and a loneliness to some of the tracks, which I really like. There's a nice amount of variety on that record to make it really probably their best record. And when I was going into this new record over here, I was kind of expecting the group to kind of stick with what they've been doing on the previous record. It seems like they really wanted to take things in a different direction on that album. I figured, okay, they're gonna take it onto this one. Lo and behold, they've kind of just ricocheted right back into the sounds that they were working with before the last record. And really, the songwriting on this record has a lot of things about it that just kind of feels like they're doing something that would have come off Islands Disappear or Little Mountain. The lyricism, the sound of the instrumentation on here, it's the folk influence comes back on a few tracks, though I think on this record, I think this is the most tastefully they've brought that influence in. The pop rock, the indie rock vibes are still here in full force. However, on this record, I would say, unlike those previous albums like Islands Disappear, like A Little Mountain, or Hawaii, you're getting probably the best production they've ever had on one of their records. I mean, the production on this thing is really nice. It's really full. It feels really clean. It feels very modern, but they take that, I think, a little step further with some of the effects, some of the filtering, some of the ways that they're recording the instrumentation on this record, and even little things like skip edits pop up in a couple spots on this record as well. It's a much more modern take on the style that they've been doing for nearly their entire discography, and let me tell you, it is, again, just the best possible scenario, I think, for this group's sound. I mean, it just kind of works really well. And it's kind of leading me to think that this might be one of their best albums yet, and possibly their best album yet on their sixth full-length album. And that's pretty freaking impressive. Now, the record starts off really well with the song Wake Up, which is featuring Ben starting off the album on lead vocals, and again, there is a folk influence slightly on this track on the chorus, but it feels, again, kind of like what Step Into the Darkness was for their previous full-length album. I think this song is kind of very similar to that one in its general makeup. However, I would say that I like this one more, and this one kind of feels a little bit more grittier than the song that opened up the previous record, or anything off the previous record completely. There's just a little bit more grit and experimentation on this record that really comes through on this track with a really interesting refrain that opens up the entire album. And the beautiful layering and the way they're toying around with vocals on this track, again, it feels very modern, but it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they're just trying to, you know, just change their sound violently like they kind of did on the last record. It feels like they are just kind of doing what they've always done, but just kind of building on top of it a little bit more. And I think that it's resulted in a really great opening track here, and it stays pretty consistent throughout the rest of the record. The following track, the lead single from this thing, UnAmerican, is another great track on this thing. Definitely them on their indie rock, their pop rock binge right there, with a really steady guitar riff, these like kind of background vocals on the track, this lyrical theme of this character named Kevin who's doing all these things that he wants to do this, Kevin wants to do that, Kevin wants to do that. It's kind of interesting, kind of funny, creates a really interesting narrative to the track, and I love the way that the pop rock instrumentation kind of morphs throughout the song, kind of in a weird way. The way they kind of drop out parts and bring them back in on the song creates a really interesting momentum to this song. It's a pop rock song, but it's definitely not your typical pop rock song. However, I do think that the record kind of hits a bit of a semi-okay note on the track Love Don't Ask. It's probably one of my least favorite on the record. It's one of these tracks where they kind of go for this cutesy love angle, and to me it just doesn't work as well as I would like it to. Not that the track is terrible or anything, the tune is decent. Just the tone and the lyrics of this track just are a little so-so for me. However, the band just picks it right back up on the title track to this LP, and it is one of my favorites on the record. It is a fantastic indie rock, indie folk number with these really steady acoustic guitar parts on the track that really get really full and powerful on the chorus, which again, I love how full and just how there's a bit more grit to the production on this record compared with any of Sid the Whale's last records. I mean, like, I love the way the guitars sound on this track. And I love the little skip edits that happen right after the first chorus of this track that really transition into the verse again really well. It's just little touches on this record that I really get caught up in, and I really appreciate. And then after this, unfortunately, we get probably my least favorite track on the entire record with the song Shame. I get what they were trying to do here. They're trying to do something with a bit more of a forward momentum to it on the rhythm section side of things. The thing that really just ruins this track for me is the really terrible refrain on this thing. I can't stand it. The shame, like the way that Ben is, Tyler's actually singing that on this track. The way he sings this refrain, it's not that great. However, I do like the way that the band just kind of falls into this musical interlude at the end, which sounds really pretty, really tranquil. Again, like, I think that even on the worst song, there's something to like on this record, and I think that just has to show that the group is just taking their sound into much more pretty and layered directions. However, again, after kind of one of my least favorite tracks, maybe my least favorite track on the entire record, the group picks it right back up with a really nice, beautiful little low-key track right in the middle of the record with the song Old Soul, Young Heart. I love the just really simple makeup of this track. The melody is extremely folky, extremely just warms up my heart right away. Like, it's just a really pretty little 2.5 minute track, and it's just kind of a perfect little interlude, perfect little intermission in the middle of the record that I think after a track like Shame that's pretty over the top, it's a really needed cool down. It's again another track that kind of makes me realize how nice the flow of this record really is. The following track, Record Shop, is one of many tracks in the band's catalog that is just a downright pop rock banger, and it's one of the tracks that I could pretty much love it right away, just simply based off of the lyrical premise of just telling people to leave me at the record shop. I wish that I could drop $1 million, as the chorus says. It's just, I vibe with that so heavy that I kind of need to say this track is great. Great little number off the record, another track that I could see being a single for these guys. And then they drop in one of the most beautiful tracks on the entire record with the song Moonlight, which is maybe the best layering I've heard on a Said the Whale record in terms of instrumentation and effects on this thing. Like, this is a beautifully produced track. Not only do the verses on this track have one of the best, possibly the best chord progression on the entire record. Like, it's a fantastic chord progression. I love the way that the pianos start playing these really beautiful arpeggios on the chorus. I mean, they just sound so full and so layered with the vocal harmonies. It's really angelic. It's really, really pretty. The bridge with these drum fills and the effects being thrown on everything, especially into the final chorus where it gets really, really intense and really just beautiful in all senses of the word. Like, it's a great freaking track. It's maybe my favorite track on the entire record. And then we get another nice cool down moment on the record with the song Broken Man, where we get Tyler out front on this track. Feels very, very stripped down on this track. However, it goes over really, really well. I mean, stripped down compared to the rest of the record, by the way, where he's talking about this guy who's waiting for his lottery numbers to strike. Sounds like a guy who just doesn't have a lot of ambition, and he kind of backs this up on the chorus where he says, if you want to find a broken man, find a guy who hasn't worked a single day in his life. It's a really interesting track on the record, lyrically speaking. And really after this, the record kind of ends on a semi-lukewarm note, unfortunately. The track Love Always is just okay for me. It's not amazing, it's pretty good, but it's definitely not as bold and as memorable as other tracks on this record for me, unfortunately. I do love the following track, though, Level Best, which really serves as a nice personal moment on the record where Tyler Bancroft sings a song for his son, saying all the things he will do for his son to give his son his level best, and saying he's gonna do whatever he can to help them out and to be the best father that he can. It's really heartwarming. It's a really beautiful sentiment. I really love what it stands for, and it's really kind of a nice track that I wish could have been followed up by a stronger closer. The closer on this record being the song Gambler Island Green. And while I do like the really, really pretty and smooth and really contemplative tone of this track, it just kind of doesn't do anything for me at the end of the day. I do like its tone. I just don't think that there's not enough going on for me to really be engaged in it. Do I think it's really, really pretty? Yes. But is it on like the level of like the closing track to James Blake's new record in terms of its beauty and in terms of the finality of its tone? Honestly, it's not up there. However, despite those complaints about the end of the record being a little okay, a couple tracks earlier on the record that I'm not so enthralled with, for the majority of this record, I mean, this thing is great. I mean, it's really solidly written folk, indie rock, and pop rock, with some really beautiful layering, some really great production, some great performances, some sharp writing, beautiful arrangements at points. I mean, there's just a lot to like on this thing, and I just found out that actually this record is apparently like the #1 selling alternative album in Canada, and I'm just so happy that it's this record, because this is a great record for Said the Whale. I think this is maybe their best. I know it's up there with my favorites of their discography, and I'm just so happy that they were able to, come together and really fine-tune, taking a couple years off before they put this one out, and pulling together a really solid set of tunes on this thing for the most part. I mean, a couple missteps in my opinion, but overall the production, I have no problems with it. The performances on this record are consistently passionate, and the arrangements, again, are consistently beautiful. It sounds modern, but it has a bit of an old soul. It's got a lot of good things going for it. I think I'm feeling an 8.2 out of 10 on this. If you want to go see all the details of like which songs I loved, which songs I didn't, some more details about the record, all of that's going to be in the description, so please go check it out. If Said the Whale, if you're watching, really love your new record, and I'm hoping for more records in the future that show you guys going this layered, this modern, and this even more forward pushing than this one. And I just can't wait to see you guys churn out another fantastic album. And I wish you were still in Winnipeg. I missed you guys on your tour, but come to Winnipeg again, and I'll see you there. Again, thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out more of my videos, go hit me up on my channel. If you want to subscribe, that'd be cool. If you want to like this video, that'd be cool. All my music links, I got my own music. I do covers on this channel as well. Go check those out on my channel, and in the description there's links to everything: my Facebook, my Instagram, my SoundCloud, my Bandcamp, Apple Music, and Spotify as well. I'm up on most streaming platforms, so just look me up, Joe Proulx. You'll be able to find me. Other than that, I don't got anything else to say. My name is Joe Proulx. This is Joe Proulx Music Reviews, and I am out.